Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll gain confidence, clarity, and a competitive edge in a crowded marketplace so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm talking about what to do when a client wants more than one of your designs. Every once in a while, when you create designs for a project, a client may want to use more than one of them. And a lot of graphic designers might feel unsure about this. I mean, after all, you've created a few designs as part of that process, but they're only entitled to one. And so how should you react to this request? What should you say? And should you charge more for this? Or should you not because, well, it was part of the work that you were doing anyway? So stick around to find out how to respond and how you can actually leverage this situation. As part of any design project, you might present a few designs to start with to set the direction. And then the client chooses one for you to make revisions or to refine. And after they approve the final design, you create the deliverables. But you may run into a situation where the client decides they want more than one of the designs. And they might want to use one of the designs now and another one later, such as an event logo for this year and maybe one for next year. Or they might want to use both of them now, such as a design on something that will be sold, like a t-shirt or other kinds of merchandise, for example. And unless it's stated otherwise in your contract or the client is unreasonable, the client is expecting only one final design. And if you've specifically stated one final design in your contract, this will be clear and they will expect to pay more. Now, if you didn't do that and they're unreasonable, they might try to argue about it or negotiate an additional design for free. So how should you react when the client wants more than one design? Well, you might be thinking, should you not comply at all? Only one design was included in the deliverables. Well, if you simply say no, because only one design was included, it could make you seem inflexible. But more importantly, you lose out on an opportunity to make money without having to do any extra work. And that's a dream situation. You might also be thinking, well, should I provide the additional design at no charge? I mean, after all, the designs were part of the design process that you did for the one design. You already did the work. And you might think, well, it wouldn't be right to charge them for the additional design. If you respond by giving away the additional designs free of charge, then the client benefits, but you don't. And they get more designs than what was included at an agreed upon price. And if you don't charge more, it devalues your work because it puts the focus on the time or the effort that was spent. And it's really about your intellectual property. It's about your expertise that was part of creating this solution. So when you only focus on the time that you spent or on the fact that it was part of the initial work, you're really missing the bigger picture. So the other thing you might be wondering is then, should you charge for the additional design? Well, the client is getting something more than what was included in the scope. It's not BOGO, buy one, get one free after all. And it may not cost you any more time or effort. But again, this is your intellectual property that they're getting extra benefit from. They have additional opportunities to use the additional design and make more money with that. And you have the right to charge for that. And there's something else to consider. You might need to do some additional work with that design. You might need to refine it. You might need to create deliverables. You might need to create various formats and so forth. And you need to get paid for that too. So you have to look at this like a business person. How can you benefit while helping them solve a problem? How can you best help your client and do what's fair for you too? And if you need more convincing, think about this. I recently hired a designer to design a t-shirt so I could sell shirts. And I told her I would use the design on other merch too. And I got feedback from many of you about which t-shirt designs you liked. And I liked more than one. So I explained this to her. And you know what? She happily sent me the files for the other designs. And she never said anything about me having to pay more for them. And in fact, when she sent me her invoice, it was for the originally agreed upon amount. Well, when I went to pay her invoice, I gave her extra compensation for the additional designs. That was the right thing to do. I'm getting extra benefit for having more than one design. I'm going to sell them. And some designers may want one design, and other designers might want another. So I got more than I originally asked for, and I should pay more for that. And I did. So how much should you charge for extra designs? Well, you can charge whatever you want, really, but there's a few things that you should take into consideration. The first thing is the effort. So consider the effort that you put into the work. So for instance, did the client ask for a ton of refinements to the designs? if they raked you over the coals with revisions, you could charge enough to make back some of that so that the project is more profitable. Or you might say, okay, well, since this was part of the design process and there were minimal refinements needed, I'll charge 50% more. So if the initial work was $2,000, maybe you just charge an additional $1,000 for the additional design. Or maybe the design was really a variation of the first one. And in that case, if they really aren't that different, maybe you charge a little bit less. And then there is deliverables. What will the deliverables be? Does the client need the same deliverables as with the first design? Do they need additional deliverables? Either way, this is going to create extra work, and so you have to take that into account and charge accordingly. So for instance, let's say the designs are for an email design that you're going to set up with their email service provider as a template. Well, you designed both designs in the process of designing the one design for them to choose, but then maybe you still have to set up both templates. So that part of the work will be double. This is one reason I like to, at least in my head, separate the design cost versus the implementation. So the design might be, say, 50% of the estimate, and then doing the work and creating the deliverables, the other 50%. I mean, it depends on the project, what the balance of those percentages will be, and I don't share that information with the client. It just helps me estimate better, like X for the design and then this much per page for layout, just to get an idea of the total project pricing. But you could calculate this after the fact too. And I admit it, I'm totally a numbers geek and I love to run the numbers different ways when I'm pricing projects. Okay, so maybe you charge 50% of the design portion of the estimate for the second design, and then you charge 100% of the implementation portion for the additional design. So in other words, if the entire project was $3,000, let's say you calculate that the design portion was half of that, $1,500. So the implementation portion would be $1,500 too. Another design might mean you charge 50% of the $1,500, which would be $750. But 100% of the implementation, which is $1,500, or maybe less, like in the case of designing another document that is similar to another one that you could, potentially reuse the file and the styles and so forth. But now I feel like I'm making you overthink it or overcomplicating it. I'm just trying to give you some ideas and some insight into my crazy brain when it comes to pricing design work. And what's important is to charge for the extra design and any additional work, and that it be profitable for you. I mean, that's what professionals in every other industry does, right? That's typical. Now, the other thing I would consider is the value of the work to the client. So in other words, what will they get out of this? What will it do for them? And then how long will the work be used? Will it be a short-term benefit to them, or will it be a longer-term benefit, such as a logo design for a new brand? A design that gets changed every year, like an event logo, has less value than a logo for a new service or product that has a longer shelf life. Now, after you figure out what you're going to charge for the additional design and any additional work that might be involved, you want to modify the agreement or create a new one. And you want to state the scope, the deliverables, the pricing, and the rights. So the next time a client wants to buy more than one of your designs, don't be afraid to say, confidently of course, sure, I'm happy to send you that design too. Here's a modified agreement to include that, and it will be this much. It's a win-win situation. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to show off that you're a design dominator while supporting the podcast, be sure to grab a shirt, hat, mug, or other merchandise in one of 3 designs. Just go to creative-boost.com/merch.